First up, he's a Republican who was the first combat veteran of either Iraq or Afghanistan to be elected to the United States Congress. Three tours over there. He's now serving his fifth term from California's 50th. Duncan Hunter. How are you, sir?
Oh, hey.
How you doing?
Good to be with you. Great.
Glad to have you back. I'm very impressed that you showed up.
Well, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Well, you're a Republican. You were Trump's first supporter.
But a Bill Maher fan. I've been watching you
really
for
appreciate
a decade.
that. No, and
Yeah.
I'm going to make you a deal. So, I know you have a little campaign finance trouble of your own.
Sure.
Okay, and most hosts would ask you about that. I'll let that go.
Okay.
Because campaign finance is tricky business.
It is. The Department of Justice is tricky business. So.
Here's my deal. I'll let that go, but you got to answer honestly about Donald Trump.
Okay.
Don't
Deal.
bullshit me about Donald Trump.
Deal.
Okay. So you're a veteran.
I am.
Right. 3 tours, right?
3 tours.
Afghanistan and Iraq.
Right.
Okay. As it should be. The way they're treating McCain, this came from Trump originally.
It's
he
pretty
didn't
bad.
like people who get captured. And now we saw this week this guy on Fox News say torture works. We know it because it worked on McCain. That's what they called him.
It's pretty rotten. Yeah, now, the torture thing is different, but those are bad. You shouldn't make fun of people when they're dying. But when you and I pass away, I'm sure some people are going to tweet bad things about us. I think with the over-sensationalism and everything being on the 24-hour news cycle and the tweets, you're going to have bad people say things. You're going to have people say bad things about everybody that dies, everybody in this room.
I'm asking you
right?
about, you're a veteran.
Right, but Trump didn't say this about
Trump
McCain.
said originally about McCain, and then somebody in his White House said a rotten thing about who cares what his vote is, he's dying anyway. Come on. This doesn't bother you and other veterans?
No,
John McCain, a guy who was 5 years in a prison.
To be honest, let me tell you to be honest. We make fun, because we're in the military. So it's hard to ask somebody who's been in the military and has made every crass joke known to man, as bad as you can get, worse than you make. Really bad jokes. Meaning not bad jokes, but crass jokes sometimes.
You're right on both counts.
We get really dirty, right? I've made the same John McCain joke with my friends who are other Marines, right? If I was a pilot as opposed to a ground pounder on the ground, I'd be a better pilot. I wouldn't get shot down, right? I've made that joke, but I make it to my friends, not on national TV as the contender for the U.S. presidency.
But
shouldn't be done.
Donald Trump is a draft dodger. Right. He supported the war, let other people go for him. To make fun of a guy who was tortured, how long do you think Donald Trump would last under torture?
Not very long.
He'd probably torture his torturers talking about the election. Nobody thought I could get to 300. and they kill themselves. Please, it's all right. So torture. This is a big topic now because we're about to, or maybe we did already, what happened with Gina Haspel. What's her name?
I think Haspel.
Haspel, okay.
Haspel.
She's up to be the head of the CIA.
I think she's going to be confirmed. And I'll tell you.
She probably will be confirmed.
I differ with McCain on torture.
But she did oversee torture back in the day when it was the Bush administration.
When it was needed. I think when you're talking about Al-Qaeda and you're talking about ISIS, and I don't call it torture. Let's call it really mean interrogation techniques.
Let's call it. No, come on. Our deal is we're not going to bullshit each other.
They're not on the medieval rack. It's
torture.
Like the end of Braveheart.
Oh, stop.
Come on.
People were in stress positions for a week. No, I'm not saying these are all good people. Look, if somebody was part of 9/11, yeah, they get what's coming to them. But when we torture people, then you're a veteran.
But we don't
if
torture
you were
people,
captured,
Bill.
they would torture you.
You want
that
terrorists.
for Americans?
We interrogate terrorists. We don't do this to if those Russian mercenaries that we killed about 100 Russian mercenaries in Syria about two months ago. That's a different thing than people that are going to put you in a cage and burn you alive. They're going to chop your head off on TV. That's what ISIS does. And if they have nukes, they're going to use them here. And
we're better than ISIS.
Use whatever means.
I'm going for way better than ISIS.
We have necessary, that we have available to make sure that we don't get a nuke in this country or get hit again like 9/11. Now, I have no problem with that. Truly, none.
Okay, well, this was after 9/11, and they didn't get any valuable information.
It doesn't mean that guys still aren't trying to do the same thing now, right?
Okay. Moving on.
Sure.
Not easy to get down, are you, Congressman? Okay. So the military budget,
all right.
I know you're a big fan of it. Do you go through it line by line? You are a congressman.
Yes, we go through it line by line.
And you think, because a lot of, I read it line by line, and a lot of the stuff, the Pentagon asks for, like, we want 70 planes. Right. That's what the Pentagon is asking for, and Congress gives them 90. Mm-hmm. Isn't that socialism when you're just making things just to give jobs to people?
No, because that's not why we're doing it.
Well, but wait, the Pentagon.
Let me give you an example.
What? Congress is giving more than that the Pentagon is asking.
Let me give you a great example. In the late 90s, the Air Force did not want this crazy thing called an unmanned aerial vehicle. Why would pilots who run the Air Force want an unmanned aerial vehicle? So they said no. Congress said you're going to have it. It's the future. And they foisted the Predator unmanned aerial vehicle on the Air Force. We made them take it. So that's an example of how you're in the military, so you're in the box, and you have no other perspective but that military perspective. That's why we have civilian control of the military. That's why we have a Congress. That's why you have secretaries, and you don't have generals running things, but a civilian as the president and a civilian as the
So the Congress knows better than the Pentagon what the Pentagon needs.
On some things. Yeah, absolutely. Let me tell you one, too. We have one icebreaker, that breaks ice, right? That's important for the Arctic. We have one. The Russians have 45. The military doesn't always do the acquisition stuff very well because they only do 2 years at a time.
They're a northern country. We're not at the North Pole.
We are. Yeah. We're an Arctic nation. Yeah.
Okay. But in the first 6 months of this year, the national debt went up to $1 trillion, and of course on Fox News they're saying, "Wait till the Republicans take over, that'll end." How do you explain this? I mean, you guys run on fiscal sanity and how everybody else is a spender, but then when you get into office, the money just flies out the window.
So here's what happened on this. It's pretty simple. You had just under 4 times the deaths last calendar year, 2017, January through December. You had almost 4 times as many deaths training in the military than in combat. You had 23 or so combat deaths, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Philippines, places all over where we have people. You had over 80 training deaths here in the continental United States. That's crazy. The Defense Department was chronically underfunded for 8 years under Obama, period. And you had massive training casualties now that showed how bad the equipment was, especially the airplanes, because all the good stuff's going forward and all the training stuff is getting worse and worse and worse, right? So we had to plus up the defense budget. Okay. And in order to get that past the Senate, that giant budget that was not funded to vote for except for the military part, that was what we had to do. And that's what I had to do.
So it was to save lives?
Yeah. It was for the military part of the budget, yeah. The Senate exacts a very high cost to get anything done. Otherwise, they'll do nothing. Yeah. The Senate does nothing anyway.
I hate to tell you, the budget could be $1 zillion, which it probably will be next year. There still will be training deaths.
But not as many. This was getting pretty massive. You had a massive spike in training deaths due to a lower budget.
So you're glad that Trump pulled out of the Iran deal?
Yes, I am. Let me tell you. So you can look at the Iran deal the same way you look at North Korea, right? And you had a lot of people poo-pooing unilateral action, moving our giant fleets to South Korea, moving people into South Korea, getting ready for Korea War, right? That's what we were doing. People put that down massively. Now we see what's happening on June 12th. I think you see the same thing with the Iranian deal. I simply don't trust the Iranians. I think they have enough uranium now to have bombs. But that's what this deal was all about. I mean, that's everybody who I listed in the monologue there has said that there were, including General Mattis, said, I read it 3 times. I doubt if Trump has read it once. Right? That's the president's take. Okay. But that's true. He said this verification is really robust. I mean, there have been many inspections. Everybody has said, even the Israelis who are against the deal have said the inspections are working. Iran is complying. Except for those places in Iran where you're not allowed to inspect. What places are those? Because military installations. Military installations, they're like super deep underground bunkers where they have the centrifuges. And you got to realize, they already have enough uranium now, low-grade uranium, to put on a very large missile, meaning the less enriched your uranium is, the bigger the missile you have to have. They already have that. They probably already have the missiles right now, right? And all the JCPOA did, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action that Trump pulled out of, that just pushed them off 10 years and not being able to validate everything. But they came out of it in 10 years. And we paid them
What could happen
billions
in
of dollars.
10 years? In 10 years, we could bring them into the family of nations. That's what the...
I think we can do that now the same way he just did.
Do that now?
With
What, you
North
mean
Korea.
while they're chanting death to America in the parliament?
But North Korea was the same thing.
But you know that you did them such a big favor because the country is really on the brink. The economy is terrible, and the people there were very furious at the government, and now they're furious at us.
I don't think so.
Of course.
No. I think they have seen what the Iranians have done with the money that they got from going into the JCPOA, buying arms, supporting Hamas and Hezbollah, doing very bad things with the money that we, as taxpayers, gave them. That's what the Iranians have been doing with the money. I think the people in Iran want their crazy religious government to go away so they can be more like us. And they're happy to have us help them in any way possible.
And your method is to strangle them economically.
Yes.
That's what's going to win them over.
Yeah, the government. That's
Okay.
worked in North Korea. I mean...
Okay. So why are there so many Russian connections with the Trump administration? And do you worry about democracy being in trouble around the world and here at home?
I wish I had an answer for you. It's strange. And I think Trump had a lot of sleazy people working for him that he didn't necessarily know. I don't think he knew that Cohen had all of these side deals. I don't think that he knew that Manafort had all of these side deals, really, because I don't think Trump's down in their business dealing saying, I want to know exactly what you're signing for.
But it seems like everybody had some connection with Russians, and all these meetings with Russians, and all the lies about the Russians. Everything comes up Russia, 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 like Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
Lots of money coming in from Russia, and I think that's what it is. They have the money.
You don't think there's any connection there? You don't think it's a little collusion-y?
No, I think, no. Not with Trump, but I think you had... No, not with Trump.
Not with Trump.
No,
But if,
I don't think Trump was
would
working
you
with... I don't
turn
think
on
the
him if
Russians
that
were
was the
working with
case?
Trump.
I mean, you're enough of a patriot to have joined up and fought for this country overseas in 2 theaters. If it turned...
Well, if you want to compare, though, what all of these different things that we see in the media right now with the actual payments made to the Clinton Foundation.
Stop it.
No, but let's
Just
go back.
stop it. Come on.
Well, let's go to the actual Russian
Just stop.
payments.
Stop the bombing.
That's not a talking point. But that's not a talking point. Those are real things. You had
the Clinton
Russian
Foundation
investment in the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
No, but we did.
I can't even. I can't even.
Well,
you know that's
you don't
bullshit.
wanna talk about
You're
that.
breaking my deal. You're breaking the deal.
No, I'm
you are
telling
breaking the
I'm telling
deal because you know that's bullshit.
You have nothing straight up with Trump and the Russians. Nothing.
Nothing.
You had these kind of sleazy guys around him that are now getting in trouble. But Trump is not. I don't think Trump knew what was going on.
Okay.
Well, is Trump the smartest guy in the world or the dumbest guy in the world?
But if should he testify? Bill Clinton had to testify for 4 hours about the blowjob. Shouldn't he?
To avoid a grand jury, right?
Shouldn't Trump have to answer questions about a foreign power meddling in our government?
No, I don't think he should in this case.
Really?
Yeah. No, I think the DOJ...
And that's not just partisanship.
No, I think the Department of Justice...
You used to be the rule of law people. Remember the rule of law?
Until the law gets political, and the Department of Justice has gotten political.
So it wasn't political under Clinton, but now it is. And Mueller's the dirty guy, and Trump's the victim.
It's an executive branch. The Department of Justice is an executive branch service, meaning it's not under Congress or anything. It's under the executive branch.
It's not in the service of the president. It's in the service of the nation.
No, but it's in the executive branch, meaning he appoints the Attorney General, right? So the Department of Justice is under Trump, kind of, right? There is no oversight for the DOJ.
No, that's not the case.
The Attorney General, who he appoints, oversees the Department of Justice.
But it's a separate entity. That's
no true, but it's in the executive.
Okay.
Like the Department of the Interior. It's the same kind of thing.
Thank you, Congressman. You're a brave man to come here.
Well, happy to help, Bill.
I think you're a great guy. I really hope you lose your next election because I think you're wrong about everything. Duncan Hunter, but thank you for your service. Thank you.